What is going on, folks? Welcome back to another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you by not only our friends at Fightful, but our non-friends, we'll call them enemies over at Skype, who hate us and don't want us to use webcams for anything ever again. Joining me, as always, is Timothy Budsties.
No.
That's his full name, for those that don't know.
Legally, it is only Timmy.
How you doing, Tim?
Pretty good.
Right on, man. We're going to kick it off the way we always do. The way we always do.
Tradition.
Tradition at this point. It's our gimmick. With the Raw and SmackDown notes from this week. This week's episode of WWE Raw was titled, quote, Braun Out of Hell, as reference to Braun Strowman's WWE Hell in a Cell aspirations. The title of SmackDown Live was, quote, Royal Proclamations, in regard to the opening segment with King Booker and the New Day.
No.
Excuse me?
It's not King Booker.
Who is it?
King Booker.
That's literally the worst thing on it. That was my least. I like the gimmick. Hated the way he said it. The quote constable name for Baron Corbin is now gone, with all WWE memos referring to him as, quote, acting general manager. And if you didn't know that, go back and listen to Monday, where they say it at least 2 times. What was it? At least
it averaged out to 2 times every 15 minutes or so.
That is abysmal.
Yeah.
Baron Corbin, which was really hammered home during the show, like we said. It's just bad. It's just bad. You know, this week Raw and SmackDown were full of a lot of confusing bad things when it comes to who should we be cheering for, who should we boo, and why should we keep watching this show. We don't know if Becky's a heel or a face. We don't know if the Shield are a heel or a face. We don't know if Braun's heel or face. It's just one day they're a face, one day they're a heel. It's like they got a coin. It's like Vince Russo's back in there, and he just says, screw it. It's frustrating.
I think with the Charlotte thing, I think they're going to turn Charlotte heel, because they wouldn't have put the cameras on her at the very end of SmackDown for 15 to 20 seconds with the crowd just booing and her looking very just upset. I think this is going to end up with Becky the babyface, like Bubba Ray Dudley said on Busted Open Radio, Bully Ray. He was like, she can be the female Stone Cold. And then Charlotte could possibly go to Hell in a Cell and just, the crowd's so against her, she just snaps and turns heel Charlotte Flair.
Well, no, because here's what I'm saying. I understand that being your reasoning for a heel turn. You know, they had the camera pan on her. But to my argument, that camera pan was on her for the audience at home to be very sympathetic. Look at this poor girl. Her best friend just turned on her, called her the B word. And now the fans are booing her, and she looks upset in the ring. But like, look at this poor girl. I feel so bad. What a bad person that Irish lass is.
But that's the other thing. She said the B word. That's the Roman Reigns deal where, oh, if Roman says the B word, he gets cheered. So they said, okay, Becky can say it, and we'll see if they pop even louder for that.
I don't think that's the reasoning. I think the genuine reason for her saying the B word was, I am now a badass bad woman.
I don't know.
I'm not the good girl that's gonna make puns. I'm the girl that's gonna punch you in the face and call you a bitch. Sorry, Sean. Please don't get mad at me. I'm sorry, Jimmy. Please don't fire us.
That's nothing. Sean cussed so much on the show last week. Jimmy's wife texted him and was like, I can't watch anymore with the kid around.
But yeah, Raw and SmackDown have just been
confusing.
A modge podge of why and what and an anxiety attack in a bottle.
Exactly. Like you said, it's like the Shield comes out and they all attack Braun when Braun's trying to be a babyface and, hey, I'm gonna come at you man-to-man, face-to-face, and then the Shield attacks him. But then this week, he double-crosses Roman Reigns, and he aligns with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, and it's like, well, now who's the heel and who's the babyface? It's just so confusing right now. And to me, like, from the way we've seen in the past, I don't even know if they know yet.
Oh, God, no. They have no idea. Because I guarantee they're going to make that decision probably in the cell.
Maybe.
They're going to make that call in the cell. Vince is gonna headpiece. I'm sure it's going to be Vince headpiecing to one of the refs, and he's just going to say, turn Braun or get the Shield out here. And that's going to determine who is the heel and who is the face. I think they're just letting the reaction of the crowd from Hell in a Cell dictate that a little bit, and also tone of the match.
And even with Braun, I think when he wouldn't get in the ring on Raw and then he kind of worked with McIntyre and Ziggler, you can tell that Toronto crowd, they didn't really boo Braun. It was kind of like they didn't know what to do because they were confused. They were that confused that the crowd didn't know whether to boo him or cheer him.
Exactly. It's just confusing, guys. One thing that isn't confusing are interviews, because they're fun to listen to. You can learn a lot. I personally like to smoke 9 packs of cigarettes a day. Wow. I personally like to listen to a lot of shoot interviews with guys like Jim Cornette, Stone Cold, because I feel like I learn a lot about the wrestling business. And if you want to learn a little bit of something about MJF, otherwise known as Maxwell Jacob Friedman, well, Sean interviewed him last week, and we're going to send you over to a clip of that interview right now.
You mentioned how you wrestle everywhere else. MLW is one of those. I have spoken to Court Bauer about WWE reaching out to MLW talent, even when they are contracted. What do you think that says about the talent level in MLW, that WWE has interest in so many of them and has went to the lengths of where MLW has kind of had to say, hey, back off a little bit. These are our guys.
I mean, here's the thing. Major League Wrestling, again, just like MJF, which is why it makes sense that I'm the face of the company, has rose in such a record time. I mean, if you look at any other promotion, whether it be WWE, WCW, I mean, literally any other television wrestling promotion. Here's the thing. We had, I think, maybe 3 shows before we were picked up by as a TV product. I mean, that's incredibly unheard of, and there's a reason for that. It's because the talent in Major League Wrestling is absolutely insane. It's because the storytelling in Major League Wrestling is absolutely insane. It's because what we do is, in fact, Major League. And was a lot of our talent, including a certain somebody who's better than most, told that WWE had interest in them? Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, right now, it is my job, it is everybody's job in that locker room to try to make it a point to make Major League Wrestling. It's not the top promotion in the world, one of the top promotions being talked about today, which is a hell of a task to do considering how well wrestling as a whole is doing right now. It's absolutely insane. There's a reason for it, Sean. Do you know what the reason is?
Well, what is that reason?
The reason is because I have chosen to be a professional wrestler, which has only risen the stock of pro wrestling as a whole.
So we mentioned Cody Rhodes taking a liking to you. You're on All In. You're on MLW. MLW filming pretty frequently. Their business model is a bit different. They're trying a lot of new things. Also, they're bringing back methods that have been tried and true throughout pro wrestling in the past. What do you make of their business model? Because, I mean, you're a prospect in a company that's looking to get established, and they do have these different types of matches and these different types of approaches, from Battle Riot to War Games. How do you know what to prepare for on any given night?
I mean, when you're as good as me, Sean, what do you have to do? You know, all I have to do is walk in. Sean, I wake up, I piss greatness, okay? I'm ready for anything at all times. So it doesn't matter what the stipulation is. It doesn't matter who I'm up against, because I'm going to win. It's just that's what winners do, Sean. They win. I know you probably don't understand what that's like, but winners win. So to answer your question, I'm always ready for any stipulation, just like almost everyone else in the Major League Wrestling locker room. I mean, if you think about it, there's so much different stuff going on in the world of Major League Wrestling. So you got to keep your head on a swivel.
And if you guys do want the full interview, head over to Fightful.com or Fightful on YouTube. Tim mentioned something really important, which has to do with a little bit about Booker T, Trish Stratus, and kind of SummerSlam for 2019. You mentioned they want to do something for that go-home crowd, for that Toronto crowd.
Well, so here's what Sean wrote first about SummerSlam being in Toronto next year. He says, as FightfulSelect.com reported weeks ago, SummerSlam 2019 is headed to Toronto, which serves as Fightful.com's home offices. While the news to Toronto wasn't exactly a secret, the venue was. Toronto has several destinations, and other outlets reported the Rogers Center, which is the former Skydome, was going to be running. It was confirmed to Fightful pretty early on the Skydome was not a possibility because the MLB, the Blue Jays, probably running that weekend, which I believe they are running a game that weekend, so they can't.
Yeah, they're running a homestand.
Yeah, they can't even use the freaking, what is it, the Rogers Center? Sky Dome.
Yeah, the Rogers Center.
You can't use the building if the Blue Jays already got a game that night anyways. So he goes on to state that some teams are cognizant of events like SummerSlam, and they like the idea of adding attendance and attractions to their, I guess you could say, home base to try and get more people that are already going to be in town for these other events to their sporting events. So he's basically saying, the Blue Jays like the idea of SummerSlam coming to Toronto on a weekend they're going to be home, because their feeling is, ooh, all these people are going to be in town for this WWE thing. Maybe some of them are also baseball fans. They'll come to our baseball game.
Exactly. Or even that, it's just like a lot of them are going to show up a day or two early. You got nothing to do. Maybe you don't know what's around Toronto. Why not catch a ball game, get a beer, get a dog, and watch the Blue Jays be utter trash? Go A's.
Yikes. So, as we saw this week on Monday Night Raw, both Trish Stratus, on Raw and SmackDown, we saw Trish and Booker.
Yeah.
So, according to Fightful.com, they do report that the reasoning for Trish Stratus and Booker T being on television in Toronto is to kind of show that Toronto crowd that, hey, we can give you some unexpected cool things right here in your hometown of Toronto. So we want you guys to be hyped for WWE coming back to Toronto next year for SummerSlam, because who knows what kind of surprises we can have for you. Because Trish, yes, it was a surprise, but not as of a surprise as Booker, because Trish is from Toronto, so it's like, oh, that makes sense. But Booker's from all Houston, Texas, so that came way out of left field. But that was one of the main reasons they wanted to have two legends on the show as a surprise kind of deal for them to be like, hey, we can do this now, but just wait till next year when we have even more time to plan something.
Exactly. And I like that a lot. I like, teasing. They're teasing. They're saying,
you're out.
Who knows what you're going to get next, baby boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. I'm kind of genuinely excited to see what happens with SummerSlam being in Toronto.
Now, they haven't said, because you remember when they were in LA, they were there for like 6 years. When they were in Brooklyn, they were there for like 4 or 5 years. They haven't said if it's just one time in Toronto or if they're going to go multiple times in Toronto. But one thing they are doing that most people aren't reporting, they're going to do a fan access as well at I think it's the Metro Toronto Convention Center. I could have said that wrong. But most people aren't reporting that. But the Toronto Sun did report that the Toronto Convention Center will be running a fan access event as well. So they're really ramping up SummerSlam in Toronto next year.
Hell yeah, it's a big thing, especially for these out-of-state fans. They finally get something really big. It's not just like, oh, it's a Raw SmackDown, or maybe like a payback. No, they're getting a SummerSlam.
And they're really ramping it up to try and make it, maybe not as big as a WrestleMania, but say, hey, this is our second biggest event of the year. Let's do some other things to actually prove it. Because I know this year and last year at the Barclays Center, they did some meet and greets, but this fan access is supposed to be way more than just a little meet and greet.
Yeah, much like they do at WrestleMania.
Yeah, but a little scaled down though, not as much.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up here, we're gonna send you over to a very, very special clip. You know them, you love them. They're the boys on the list, and your boy. Right now. Enjoy.
So a few months ago, I was telling you about how it looked to me like WWE had a new revenue stream. And that new revenue stream was major sold shows. And they're continuing to do it. As a wrestling viewer, this is starting to create confusion for me, because they find themselves currently, and we talked about this last week, they're juggling 3 televised shows at once in terms of promotion on television. Yep. And it's not going to get any better, because when you look at their upcoming schedule, they have other shows that are planned out. So right now, WWE, September 16 is Hell in a Cell. October 6 is Super Showdown in Australia. October 28 is Evolution, the all-women's pay-per-view, as they make everybody say word for word on TV.
First ever, Jimmy.
Yeah, first ever historic all-women's pay-per-view, Stephanie's announcement. And now, according to Ticket Drew, November 2nd is going to be the next Saudi Arabia show. That's 5 days after Evolution, Sean. 5 days after Evolution. I understand from a scheduling perspective it's fine because no women are allowed on that show.
Yes.
And Evolution's going to be an all-women show.
It's not a coincidence.
No, but that still means that in terms of promotion on television, they're going to have to juggle another show while they still have to promote Evolution, while they still have to promote Super Showdown. It's starting to get confusing as a viewer. And like you said about when you said, oh, they have the Shield booked for Super Showdown, they got to promote all these matches and shows simultaneously, and it kind of almost makes you question too about the outcome of one show when they're promoting the same match on another show, and it's getting confusing, man. It's a lot.
So when the news came that the co-branded things were coming along, like all pay-per-views are going to be co-branded, I was told by my friends in the company, at least the wrestlers, we're not told that a schedule is really going to be affected. It doesn't mean more or less days, and that's what you're seeing. You're getting 2 Saudi Arabia shows. You're getting an Australia show in place of where some of these other shows would be. Because, I mean, last year, my God, they had so many special events, and now they're kind of making that up. We've got 2 international events scheduled and a women's pay-per-view that wasn't on the slate. So they're loading up the network and adding attractions to it, and I think they're trying to globalize their brand even better. And I do like that they're putting some stakes on this show. Some of the
matches, yeah.
Because, I mean, they did at the Greatest Royal Rumble, too. The thing is, just nothing of note happened.
Yeah.
At least when Daniel Bryan faces The Miz, you won't leave the show thinking that nothing has happened, because their title match they won't get the title match if they win on that show. So you'll get to leave that event and say, okay, well, we have something to look forward to, as opposed to, wow, I just sat through a 4 or 5 hour house show.
Yeah, but you know what? Storyline-wise, it kind of leaves a lot to be desired when Kevin Owens is quitting on Raw, but he's also being promoted for Super Showdown in a tag match, Cena and Lashley against Kevin Owens and Elias.
Yep.
So I guess he's going to quit for 1 week and come back on Raw next Monday. You know, like it's.
I don't know if he's on the road with WWE this week. I don't know. I know Matt Hardy isn't. Matt Hardy's at home taking some time off. But
well, didn't he sort of say he's a producer now, because he posted a photo saying
he's doing some stuff. He's nothing set in stone yet, but yeah, he's working on it.
Because after SummerSlam, right, he posted that photo on his social media.
Well, so. I mean, if you've followed Matt for any length of time, you know that he's really good at getting people talking.
Okay, fair enough.